What's up, guys? It's Benny. We've been following this creepy case of Gene Hackman and his death, and not only his death, but his wife's death and his dog's death at the exact same time. At least we thought so, in his mansion in New Mexico. The legendary Hollywood actor that I believe everyone can agree is just a titan of the silver screen and a throwback to a more golden era of Hollywood was found dead with his wife in a totally separate part of the house, and then his dog in a totally other separate part of the house. Didn't make any sense. His wife was 30 years his younger. Gene Hackman died at least 9 days before the bodies were found mummified. And this is all we had known at this point. So super creepy. How did they get mummified? Why are they all dead? Many people speculated foul play. Many actors of Gene Hackman's caliber who worked with Gene Hackman went forward and said, this is really mysterious. Some outright calling for Gene Hackman's murder investigation, and the police themselves saying that this opens a brand new investigation into the circumstances of this mysterious death. And so, listen, the police did that investigation. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, it's gone from extremely dark to just extremely sad what the police found. Here's what they found for 95-year-old Gene Hackman. This is what Gene Hackman looked like at the very end of his life. This is the last known photograph of Gene Hackman. Again, just time takes its toll on all of us. What the investigation found from the police department in New Mexico, Santa Fe Police Department, is this: Gene Hackman died of heart disease. His wife died a week earlier of hantavirus, which is a virus that you get from deadly virus that you get from like fecal matter. It apparently is prevalent in New Mexico. According to them, Hackman walked around the house with her body still in it, alerting nobody. Story gets weirder and weirder. This is the now official story from the police in their investigation, is that Gene Hackman, who had a deep, debilitating Alzheimer's disease. So he was sort of just out. If you know anybody with Alzheimer's disease, you know that they kind of like spaced. Apparently, he wandered the home with his wife dead in the house. She had died of hantavirus. And there's a lot of people questioning this, and I don't know, man. It's still really creepy. It's still really mysterious. But this is the official explanation. The official explanation, and I'll play for you. The press conference is New York, Mexico's chief medical examiner says Gene Hackman died on February 18th due to heart disease, advanced Alzheimer's disease being a contributing factor. I mean, listen, this is very normative for somebody who's 95 years old. If you're 95 years old and you lived in the time period that Gene Hackman lived in, heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, these are very, very, very common. Okay. His wife, Betsy, preceded him by a week. So she was dead a week beforehand, with the medical examiner placing her death on February 11th, which means that he lived in the house with her body decomposing for a week. The cause of death for Betsy Hackman is hantavirus. It's a very rare but serious virus spread by rodents' fecal matter. The pills found around Betsy Hackman's wife were for thyroid medication, and they were not her cause of death. She died, and there was a bottle of pills strewn around. So this is just awful. Here's CNN reporting. It's possible that Gene Hackman was not aware that his wife had died. He showed evidence of advanced Alzheimer's disease. Again, if you've ever engaged with anybody with this style of disease, advanced Alzheimer's, you realize they're like Joe Biden. I mean, it's like gallows humor. It's dark, but it's true. They don't know what's going on. They're like they're out of their mind. And so maybe that's why. The Hackman's family spokesperson previously told CNN that the reports of Alzheimer's are wholly untrue. Okay. Asked if Hackman had been able to live on his own and survive his wife. They said, I'm not aware of what the normal daily functioning capability was. He was in very poor state of health, significant heart disease, and I think ultimately that's what resulted in the death. But the Alzheimer's is the only thing that I can think of that explains why he would wander the home with his dead wife in it for a week. Dude, it's freaking dark. Okay, so let me get this straight. Hackman's wife died of mouse poop after she and Gene were murdered. great job investigating. This is Randy Quaid not holding back. Randy Quaid is somebody who's regularly said that Gene Hackman and his wife were murder victims. Randy Quaid, of course, a legendary actor in his own right. He knew Gene Hackman. He worked with Gene Hackman. And he's saying that Gene Hackman was murdered because of the royalty streams that Hollywood has to pay these older actors who have been in movies for 50 straight years. And these guys, obviously, this is how actors make most of their money. How did they get away with murdering these famous people? He says that he knew Heath Ledger, Hackman, other actors Randy Quaid knew, and he's sick and tired of these actors dying. This is Randy Quaid. So they believe that Gene Hackman had Alzheimer's and his wife died in the bathroom on February 11th, and he left her there dead for 7 days and nights, and then killed his dog, and then died himself in a mudroom, and nobody found them a week after that. A lot of people saying, okay, this is like really suspicious. Gene Hackman's story, he and his wife and his dog died, are 100% horseshit. Carry on. People saying they don't believe it. The thought of an Alzheimer's-stricken Gene Hackman wandering around the giant house alone for nearly a week with his beloved wife lying dead on the floor is unbearably sad. We collectively need to do a better job preparing for the realities of aging and mortality. Some people's taking it at face value, right? Saying, this makes sense. I don't know, man. I don't know. I do know that the authorities lie to us, right? I am aware of that, and that in situations that necessitate lying, that for instance, we haven't seen we haven't seen any autopsy of the Matthew Thomas Crooks assassin for President Trump in Butler. Nobody's given us an autopsy. Nobody's given us any toxicology report. We've seen nothing. They tried to manipulate George Floyd's autopsy report because it showed that he died of fentanyl. So I know, you know that they can manipulate these things, and they've tried to do that before. Nobody believes the Kennedy autopsy report. They've changed that a million times, and nobody believes the Jeffrey Epstein autopsy report. They changed the Epstein autopsy report. One of the original people that did the autopsy said that his neck was crushed. That was strangulation is what happened to Jeffrey Epstein, not hanging himself in his cell, 5-foot bunk. Okay, anyway. Here's how Fox News is reporting it, ladies and gentlemen. Straight up, just really tragic and sad story.
Breaking news out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Officials just wrapping up a press conference on the mysterious death of actor Gene Hackman and his wife. Fox's Alicia Acuna is live in Denver with the latest. Alicia.
Hi, Will. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department just wrapping up a news conference just a minute ago, and the chief medical examiner for the state of New Mexico says it's reasonable to conclude that Betsy Arakawa, also known as Betsy Hackman, died 7 days before her husband, actor Gene Hackman.
The cause of death for Miss Betsy Hackman, aged 65 years, is hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. The manner of death is natural. The cause of death for Mr. Gene Hackman, aged 95 years, is hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributory factor.
Two-time Oscar winner and his wife, Betsy, were found dead in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home on February 26th. According to the sheriff, their bodies were found in separate rooms and showed signs of mummification. The initial investigation found Hackman appeared to have fallen or collapsed in a mudroom off the home's kitchen. Arakawa was found on the floor of a bathroom, a space heater next to her head, and on the counter, an open prescription bottle with pills scattered around. A search of the home by law enforcement recovered 2 cell phones, thyroid and blood pressure medication, Tylenol, medical records, and a calendar. Their bodies and that of one of their dogs were discovered by a maintenance worker at the sprawling home. Up until now, the sheriff had said foul play was not a factor, but we were waiting for today's update because he repeatedly said, Will, that it was suspicious. Now, hantavirus is a respiratory illness that is transferred from rodents to people. Will?
Wow. Thank you for that, Alicia. She died 7 days before him. What a detail that probably deserves a little more investigation.
Yeah, really strange. So he just wandered around with his dead. Even if you have Alzheimer's, you wander around with your dead wife's body for 7 days, just laying there. And that's why they're mummified. They're mummified because you're talking weeks before people found them. And the dog, according to reports, died of starvation. The dog just died because nobody was feeding it and nobody was taking care of it. So, I mean, incredibly sad. If you just believe the official story, even sadder and darker if there's more foul play afoot. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to play you the sheriff and what they said, because we know there's a lot of interest in this story. So you can decide for yourself if you believe these people. All right.
This investigation started on February 26th with the discovery of Mr. Hackman and Miss Arakawa and their dog at their residence. I just want to do a short recap and then touch on some new information. As we know, both individuals tested negative for carbon monoxide. City Fire conducted tests and deemed scene safe for deputies to conduct their investigation. The preliminary pacemaker interrogation results were released last week, and I'll let Dr. Dural touch more specifically on those results. The gas company New Mexico, they also did an analysis of the residence, and they found one minor leak in a single burner on the kitchen stove, which was 0.33% of room air, which was pretty minute and insignificant. Since that time, Xena, the deceased dog, has been taken for necropsy at the Veterinary Diagnostic Services, and we'll be awaiting those results. Let's speak a little bit in reference to the timeline for Betsy Arakawa. We know from our investigation that on February 9th, 2025, she picked up Xena from Gruta Veterinary Hospital. There was a procedure that was done with the dog, which may explain why the dog was in a crate at the residence. Let's move on to February 11th, 2025. Mrs. Arakawa had an email conversation with her massage therapist at about 11:21 a.m. Moving on into the afternoon, Ms. Arakawa was at the Sprouts Farmers Market between 3:30 and 4:15 p.m. Ms. Arakawa was seen on surveillance video at the CVS pharmacy in Santa Fe from 4:12 to 4:20 p.m. She then stopped at a local pet food store at about 4:54 p.m. Her car was seen on surveillance, and the remote control clicker that is assigned to her and her vehicle was used to enter the subdivision to gain access to the gated community at 5:15 p.m. Numerous emails were unopened on her computer on February 11th. There was no additional outgoing communication from her or known activity after February 11th, 2025. The cell phone information and the cell phone data is pending. We're working with state police to get the information from those phones, but our investigation shows that all the last known communication and activity from Ms. Arakawa was